So this is Kira speaking. Today's session is being recorded in September of 2025. So if you're viewing this video at a later date, some information may no longer be relevant. So please make sure to check those documents accordingly. Today we will be talking about our 2025-2026 Art and Feminism theme. We are really delighted to have Chris Schilling from the Wikimedia Foundation here with us today, who will then go an overview of the Rapid Funds. We'll also discuss that Art and Feminism microfunding, kind of walk you through the form, and then we'll have time for questions, and then we'll wrap up. So thank you again for joining us. So to talk a little bit more about our theme, we are actually doing a 2-year exploration at Art and Feminism about what would a truly feminist internet look like. And, you know, the headlines right now, they seem dire. And they're kind of right. We're in a really critical moment here. Disinformation is rising and polarizing. The internet is a very inequitable space, unfortunately. But what we're trying to do here at Art and Feminism is to really kind of meet this moment with action, to build digital spaces where equity and feminist voices can be heard and thrive. And through open access resources and global programming, we empower people of all gender identities to edit in the Wikiverse and reclaim the record, because the internet isn't going to fix itself. In this year, our second year of this theme, we're really inviting our community to go deeper into the Wikiverse and centering Wikidata. It's the basic tool for producing content and checking Wikipedia's notoriety, and it's a part of our key strategy. And while this may sound very niche, it's deeply consequential. Things like AI and smart devices are increasingly pulling from the structured data that is Wikidata. And when that data is incomplete or biased, it has the ripple effect across the entire internet. So we really need that feminist data to tell our feminist stories. And so we're drawing on over a decade of community organizing to create a global intervention through structured data. And we see this as a really powerful form of information activism, and it's more urgent than ever. And so we're very excited that you're all here to learn more and to join us in this work. Collectively, we'll make tangible impacts on information access. We'll ensure that information is more inclusive, reliable, and feminist. And we are going to, be at the forefront of information activism that is needed now. And of course, you're not alone here. We're making new guides, new resources, new tools to really kind of help you on this journey. So thank you again for joining us, and we really look forward to your involvement in the community. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Chris.
This is Chris speaking. Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Kira, for that kind introduction. I'm Chris Schilling. I am a program officer at the Wikimedia Foundation, and I support funding needs for organizations and individuals and groups of folks, primarily in 2 of our regions, that is in North America as well as in CE in Central Asia. And yeah, for my portion of the session today, I was going to talk a little bit about the Rapid Fund program in general, and give you a little context on how the funding program works, sort of why we have the program, why we're running it kind of at all in the first place, and also some ways that you can get started with considering applying for funding in the future if you're interested in running an activity or event, particularly related to the to Art+Feminism in general. Next slide, please. So as I noted, we'll talk in this overview a little bit about some of the activities and projects we fund in the program, so you get a sense of sort of what have we funded before in Rapid Funds. I'll also talk a little bit more specifically about what is eligible for funding in general. And also, finally, that if you want to start applying for Rapid Funds, I'll provide some guidance about where to start as well. Next slide, please. So the very like nutshell or very highly condensed way to describe Rapid Funds is as such. The Rapid Fund program, it's a Wikimedia Foundation funding program where applicants can receive between about $500 to $5,000 USD to organize a variety of activities that benefit Wikimedia projects and the communities that use it or contribute to it. Next slide, please. In terms of things that we funded through Rapid Funds, here are a few examples. Last year, we received a project from a gallery and museum called Center A, which focuses on primarily Asian American art and figures. And they wanted to run their own sort of Art+Feminism series of editathons and workshops. And so we supported them to run these series of events that focused on activist art movements, contributors, and related organizations around feminist activism. Earlier this year, we've also supported two other proposals through focused on Swahili language communities at Pwani University. And so in this, at the university, they ran workshops in Swahili with gender advocates to engage on and provide guidance on different barriers to access information in general, particularly in coastal Kenya, and also to talk about the role of art and artwork in advancing gender equality. The last proposal on here was a project in Guinea, and it is a training to focus on the Art+Feminism campaign in the country, in particular to help encourage and support more women to contribute to Wikipedia in general through the lens of this campaign. So those are a few examples of Rapid Funds we have supported in the last year, maybe a year and a half or so. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk now a little bit more about eligibility. That is kind of what are the criteria that you need to fit in order to be able to access funding in general. In terms of the activities that we tend to fund, these are fairly broad, and we are often funding a lot of local events that are connected to Wikimedia campaigns, such as Art+Feminism, but also other campaigns like Wiki Loves Earth, Wiki Loves Monuments, and others. We also fund activities that look like editathons, that is gathering a bunch of people together to kind of work and contribute to different articles, sometimes on a topic, on a specific topic area. We've even funded editathons that are really built to just focus on like one article, and like everybody, takes a piece of an article and like really builds out a kind of single high quality article as a result of the work. So we have funded things like that before as well. We also support funding for workshops, that is to provide training or to teach skills about Wikimedia projects or about doing research and sort of investigating into different topics, or making use of different tools that might be useful on Wikimedia projects, and that can be aimed at both very new but also more experienced contributors. We support informal meetups for general and community engagement because we think that there's a lot of value in helping a community get to know each other. And so supporting general gatherings of people to meet and learn about each other and sort of help each other out with different needs or tasks, we think is also a good use for funding as well. We support organizations to have more formal meetings to help with their strategic planning or long-term thinking when it comes to their activities and sort of ideas to help support their community or their organization. And then we also support collaborative work with institutions. For those of you who are familiar, there's a term called GLAM that we often use in the Wikimedia movement. This refers to various collaborations with galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, but also includes other institutions such as ones focused on specific kinds of performance art or artistic traditions. So collaborative work with institutions is another form of project that we fund as well. In terms of expenses, that is the things you can use rapid funds to help pay for or support. This is also quite broad, and so the items on here on this slide don't represent a complete list, but represent very common expenses, and you can check for more complete criteria on MetaWiki. In fact, I can get this link here for you in chat here in just a moment. Just so that you can check out some more of those areas if you would like. So let me just post this into chat really fast. So this is other eligible expenses. But yeah, in terms of eligible expenses, we support funding for working space. That is, if you need to reserve a physical space to help, host your event or to gather people together, funding can be used for that, as well as like services that might be associated with using that space. If you're running a contest or a campaign that has some small incentives to help support participation, we do support some funding for prizes. Outreach, so the cost of sort of getting the word out there about your events, whether that be, printing out flyers or doing, targeted advertising, creating some, banners or things like that, to help, create a nice image for your campaign or your event. Those are all expenses we can generally support across a number of different kinds of activities. If your community or event is located in a region where connectivity is an issue and is limited or difficult or challenging, otherwise challenging, we do support data costs to help support access to your virtual event as well. We can also support project-related travel for organizers to some extent. There are some limitations on travel in general, however, so it's not the case that we can support a lot of heavy international travel through Rapid Funds. Some of that is by virtue of the budget, of course, but we also have limitations on what kind of travel we can support there. But supporting travel for organizers to help plan and ultimately implement the event is something we can often support through Rapid Funds. We can also support some compensation for well-defined roles that don't replace volunteer activities on Wiki. This often includes things like graphic design work, being a trainer, that is providing training in the course of like a workshop, childcare services, some translation activities, general project management for projects that sort of rise to a certain level of complexity. As well as kind of Wikimedia in residence type roles in conjunction with a like a cultural institution, for example, or a museum. And again, please refer to the link I posted in chat if you are wondering about other kinds of expenses as well. And I'm also available for questions, of course, towards the end of the meeting if there are other kind of specific expenses you may be wondering about. And as I said, yeah, so this wasn't extensive in the previous slide. So we're open to funding needs beyond those specific examples I just named. But importantly, the expenses we fund should be aligned with the sort of general mission of the Wikimedia movement. And that is, we want to support movement activities that collect or help develop educational content under a free license or that are in the public domain and to disseminate it effectively and globally. It is the literal mission. So if the expenses you may be thinking about aren't clearly associated with this mission, they may not be ones that we can support through Rapid Funds. Next slide, please. I want to talk next a little bit about the schedule and sort of reviewing process for Rapid Funds. So when we have a given round for Rapid Funds, that is when we receive a proposal and then ultimately make a decision on that proposal, we follow a specific procedure on how to do that. So we have a deadline for Rapid Funds that comes every 2 months, usually on the first of that month. And after that, we go through a brief eligibility check, looking at some of the eligibility criteria I named earlier in the presentation. We look at a couple other areas of eligibility later on as well. So looking at this sort of middle item here under 28 days, we have another sort of round of eligibility and general compliance. We look at here more about things like if you're a returning grantee, have you kind of completed your reports that are, a necessary part of Rapid Funds after you complete your projects? We also will sometimes provide feedback. So in the case, if I'm the program officer for your proposal, I may leave some questions or feedback on your proposal if I, for example, have a need for clarity, or if I have a concern, for example, or if I have a suggestion for something in your proposal that I think might be helpful, like a tool, or maybe connecting you to someone else who has run a similar project that you might benefit from connecting with. Um, After that feedback is provided, if it is, applicants can, of course, respond to that feedback, and we will use that to help us sort of make a decision on that proposal. After this sort of middle period of around 28 days, where we kind of complete review and any kind of communication that's needed around your proposal, we'll make a decision, within a few days after that period. And then about 2 weeks is sometimes needed to actually process the grant and then to send it out, because we need to issue out a grant agreement that applicants sign to say, effectively, I'm going to do these activities for the funding that I'm going to receive. And then afterwards, I, basically promise to send in a report to the foundation on these activities. This grant agreement is necessary because it's sort of a legally required document we have to send out as because of our nonprofit status in the United States. And so that is one of the reasons for the agreement. And then we also need to send payment, of course. So sometimes there are some details around gathering banking information, as well as sort of currency considerations that require a little time from our grants admin team to understand and sort of confirm, so that we can get you the funding you need to support your events and activities. After that, you will do your project. Your applicants will complete their projects. And then about 30 days after the project is completed, we will usually ask you to submit a report. One note on the reporting is that if your project is delayed for any reason, let's say you need to reschedule your sort of planned dates, or you otherwise like need more time to sort of gather information to do the reporting you want to do, we are usually very happy to provide extensions in Rapid Funds. So it's just a matter of notifying us and asking, hey, some set of circumstances came up for me, and we'd like another week or two to help, finish up our report. That's almost never an issue. So we're quite flexible around our reporting deadlines for Rapid Funds. Next slide, please. So in terms of where we are now in the schedule for Rapid Funds, our next deadline for Rapid Fund proposals is November 1st. So we have just a little bit of September left, as well as October. So there is a good amount of time to work on your next proposal if you are thinking about applying for funding in the next deadline. The important note about this deadline, though, is that if you are planning to apply for November 1st, it should be for projects that are going to start quite a bit later, which would be in January of 2026. And that is because of the timeline, is that we wouldn't be able to get a funding decision to you until basically the end of November, early December. And so we want to make sure there's plenty of time after the decision is made, so that we can get your funding to you, and you have the funding so that you can effectively start your proposal or your proposed activities that require funding, with the right preparation. There are other deadlines that will be happening this year, of course, or this fiscal year, I should say, that is between now and the end of June of 2026. And so if you're interested in applying for a later deadline, there will be other deadlines in the next calendar year as well to consider. Again, it'll be every 2 months or so. So if you're not applying for the November 1st deadline, the next deadline will be in early January for comparison. So to get started, there are 5 suggestions I have if you are thinking about applying for rapid funds in the near future. First is to just generally review our eligibility criteria to understand, am I going to be a good fit for this program? Is my project going to be a good fit for this funding program? Are 2 key questions to ask and to check out before you consider starting an application. You can also review recently funded proposals in your region or other regions. So on MetaWiki, the Wikimedia project we use to basically house a lot of the kind of funding programs as well as kind of proposals that we receive. You can check out everything we've ever funded through Rapid Funds on MetaWiki in terms of the application, as well as any reports that might be available. So reports are usually connected to those proposals. So you'll see a big button on an application or on a funded proposal page on MetaWiki that will connect you directly to its report if you want to check out, basically what happened as a result of those funded activities. You can also take a look at the Rapid Fund application itself, so you get a sense of what questions we ask, which include things like certainly information about you as the applicant, but also about your activities, as well as sort of your goals and maybe what sorts of problems or challenges you might be trying to address with the activities you wanna plan and organize. I also suggest that you register on Flux, which is the platform we use to receive proposals and process them, as well as to kind of send funding to you once it's approved. But to do so, you need to sort of follow specific instructions, since it is a separate platform from Wikimedia projects. So we have some instructions available on MetaWiki on how to go through that registration process. As well as a video as well that you can check out if that's preferred. And finally, we're always open to folks approaching us and asking us questions about rapid funds or about a proposal idea or about an issue you might be facing, perhaps even with like just registering for Flux, for example. If any of those things apply, or if you have other questions about funding, you can certainly feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my email here in chat for reference. Oh no, I spelled my name wrong. Here we go. There we go. So you can feel free to reach out to me in chat. One of my colleagues, Willie, his email is also mentioned here. Just for context, Willie is the program officer supporting the Sub-Saharan Africa region. And so if you or your community happens to be situated there, Willie would be the best person to reach. But you're definitely still welcome to reach out to me, and I can certainly, just basically connect you to him for further support. And thanks very much. I hope this overview was helpful as a starting place. And if you're thinking about applying for funding, again, feel free to reach out. And I look forward to supporting many of you in the future with your Art+Feminism activities.
This is Kira speaking. Thanks so much, Chris. We'll have time for questions in just a moment, but I wanted to then shift us over to talking about the Art and Feminism microfunding. So we'll put in the chat right now, here actually is this, oh, Miranda, thank you. Miranda's on it. This is our guide to microfunding. And we have, in this, we also have some information about the rapid funds as well, as kind of a quick overview to both. But the way to think about Art and Feminism microfunding is more of almost like a small reimbursement program. So basically what the microfunding does is it's up to $300 to defray the cost to event organizers. And so this is really for a lot of the eligible expenses that are the same as the foundation. Something though that in particular that we like to uplift at Art and Feminism, or that's really community care statement. And our community care statement we initially made in 2020, and really just thinking about what is the safest for most vulnerable in your community, recognizing that, you know, we're going to keep ourselves safe, and we are still unfortunately going through a global pandemic. So things like COVID-19 mitigation supplies are really something that we are highlighting as an eligible expense for art and feminism events. So things such as high quality face masks, COVID tests, air purifiers, and ventilation is all really things that you can apply for that microfunding for. We do our kind of deadlines on a quarterly basis, and those are also included in this guide. So if you have an event that happens in the first quarter, then or I guess now would be like, if you have an event that happens now, the deadline for that reimbursement would be in January, and then you would get that reimbursement at the end of January. So it is more of a reimbursement model instead of like rapid funds is more of kind of a funding before the event. Art and Feminism microfunding is like reimbursement after the event. So that's kind of like another way to maybe wrap your head around it. You can apply for funding on our website. So if you go to artandfeminism.org/events, you'll see the button right there that will add your event, which we want to see on our website, and then also then to apply for funding. And so that's something that you can do after your event. But now I'm going to try to play this short video that shows a little kind of overview of our form. So let's see.
The Art and Feminism event reporting form is the form that you'll fill out every time you have an event, particularly if you want to request Art and Feminism microfunding reimbursements. The form, we've simplified it from last year and previous years, trying to make it easier for people to request funds. So the first part is the same as before. We are still implementing our COVID mitigation policy. So you're required to implement some sort of COVID mitigation policy before you can receive funding directly from Art and Feminism. Here it links to our community care statement, quick guide to funding, and COVID precautions for in-person events. This is the back end of the form. So when you're filling it out, different things will pop up based on what you need. I'm just showing you an overview of what the form looks like. This first page is organizer and event information. We've shortened it quite a bit. We've deleted unnecessary questions. There's now just like columns for your name, your email, the event date, and the calendar link at the Art and Feminism website, and a dashboard if that's applicable for your event. The next section of the form, we've moved this up from the end of the form to the beginning. So in case you're not requesting funding, but you still want to leave feedback, you don't have to go through a bunch of extra slides. We love to receive your feedback. Some of these questions include, are there any resources, guides, or training that you would be interested in to help better prepare you for a future event from us? Comments and feedback for our leadership, and any comments and testimony to share publicly. We also would love to receive your photos. So here you can upload Wiki Comments links to your photos, files directly, etc. This is totally optional, but we really love your photos. We love to scroll through them every year. And then after that feedback section, you can select that you would like to request reimbursement of up to 250 USD. So then you'll click next. If you do request reimbursement, it will take you to this COVID mitigation sort of panel where you fill out whether or not your event was in person or virtual. If it was virtual only, you don't need to worry about your COVID mitigation, but if it was hybrid or in person, we ask that you talk about your COVID mitigation policy, including if you provided masks, air ventilation, other things like that. Once you fill that out, you click next, and the screen will pop up. We've added some more things that are covered this year, like memberships to library and archives when partnership is not available. Not all of those will be listed on here, but if you have something that you would like covered that is not listed on here, but is listed on our quick guide, you can click other. And then a pop-up will pop up when you're filling out that form where you can type in what that other might be. Here you'll enter the amount in USD. And then we ask that you upload your receipts. We want to make sure we have receipts so we can verify your expenses and get you that money. Something we've done to make this form easier this year is in the previous years, whenever you were selecting payment options, the form's logic would populate all of the different like fields, even if you didn't need to fill out, for example, a Zelle email or an international bank account thing or something else. It would just all pop up. So this should work that when you click on US or outside of US, the correct blank spaces will pop up and you'll just fill those out for your region. They could include bank address, routing number, Baker Swift code, etc., but not all of those things will pop up for everybody. It'll be more region specific. Here's the space for additional comments. And at the end, you can thank you for providing your feedback will pop up. And you should get a confirmation email that says that you filled out this form. So the things we've done to make it easier, we have deleted a lot of unnecessary questions, made the logic a lot simpler, and moved the feedback portion of the form to the top of the form. Another thing that we did was we usually have 4 reimbursement dates on our quick guide for funding. We've added an extra one, a 5th reimbursement date, to try and get people their money a lot quicker than before. So let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
So again, hopefully, I will say the caveat there is, thank Miranda, who's on our call. Thanks for making that recording. We actually did that recording about a year ago, and it said 250 USD, but as it says in the guide, we have upped it to 300. So let us know if there are any questions about that, of course. And yeah, so now is our time where we kind of open it up to you all. If you have any questions in particular about Rapid Funds, we have like the excellent opportunity of having Chris in the room with us right now to answer those questions. Also happy to talk about the Art and Feminism campaign or questions about microfunding as well. You want to use the raise hand function.
And for those of you who may not have access to audio, you can also use the chat.
Absolutely. And yes, to answer the question in the chat, we will be sending the follow-up with the link to the slide deck, which has a lot of links into it, as well as the recording that hopefully you'll be able to access later if you have if you just want to review something. But yes, the invitation to ask questions in the chat or live in the room is there. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording.